Is it truly possible to create a self-funded company or full bootstrapping? And the answer is yes. The one speaking to you has founded a technology company called WaTicket, which today has more than 30 employees, over 3,000 clients, and is still growing. And it turns out no one has invested a single damn dollar in our company. What does this mean? It's all been bootstrapping, which means with our own resources and the founder's savings. And today I want to share this methodology with you and how we made it possible. This image you see here clearly shows the bootstrapper's mindset, or as we call it, the self-funded company. And all these broken shoes you see there mean you have to make do with what you have. If one of those shoes breaks, you will have to sew it up and keep moving forward. If it breaks, patch it up and keep on going, because no one from the outside will come and hand you. Here, take these brand new shoes, now you can go. When you're all alone and know you won't have any investors, this will be your reality from the very moment you start your company. So let's delve a little deeper into the disadvantages. Once you realize you won't get investors and must start with your own or the founder's funds, these are the drawbacks you'll face. First, the limitations. When you don't have money, obviously you can't hire the best team, you can't pay for ads, you can't make the best product. You will always have limitations. And the growth, obviously, is going to be slow. It's not the same thing to have $1 million as to have 0 cents in your bank account because you are starting from nothing. And let's not even talk about mental health. You'll live stressed because one day you're doing well and the next day you're not. When we started WaTicket, we were on a real roller coaster ride. There were months when we had just enough to cover our payroll, and other months we simply had to dip into our savings and keep on persisting. And you'll also have a smaller contact network, because normally when someone comes to invest money in you, they bring their entire inner circle, their whole network of contacts, and put them on a platter for you to use. In this case, you won't have that. And this happens in any business, but when you're a bootstrapper, the risk of your business failing increases by 100%. So you have a low probability of making your business work. But the beautiful thing is that it is possible to achieve it. Now let's go to the advantages. And this is what I personally like the most, that you will have complete control of your business. What I mean is, you will only divide the entire pie between yourself and your partners, and you will have absolute control in the sense that you can make and unmake things as you wish. When you have investors, they are always telling you, hey, do this, do that. And obviously, since they've given you their money, you also have to abide by what they're asking, because you know if it fails and you don't heed what they told you, I told you what to do. But in this case, you have 100% control, and it's up to you if it works or not. Here, you have a lower financial risk in the sense that you won't lose a lot of money unless you inject a great deal, because if you have your own resources, you'll limit yourself to just the expenses. You'll always optimize everything. The main focus is on profitability. And in what specific sense? When your company is self-financed, you will always be actively seeking profitability. Profitability in the sense that you absolutely need to have money. I want to be paid so I can continue existing. And you also have the flexibility, agility, in the sense that, okay, I'll do this, I'll do that, because it's 100% up to you. There's no executive, no investors putting pressure on you. You will also have sustainable growth. This means you'll advance at your own pace. If you want to run, then run, but with the resources that you have. If you want to go slower, you can also do it because it's inside you. And this means not having to beg investors, that you won't be constantly chasing them saying, hey, I need money. You'll be pitching your idea. And it's very tiring to do this process of getting money. It's truly exhausting. And normally when a company, a tech company or something similar first starts out, the founder or the CEO is 100% focused on begging and pursuing investors. I am not saying it's wrong. In fact, I also looked for investors myself, but it's complicated. Not me. Obviously, all rejected me. So that's the reason I opted for this bootstrapping methodology. So your mindset also changes. And you must be clear on this. This self-funded bootstrapping method forces you to do the most important thing a company must do, which is to generate revenue. Because if you don't, no investor will put in their money for your company to survive a few more months. No, you have to be focused on generating revenue. And that's the beautiful part, because you invent the necessity of getting those clients who will buy your product or your service. You also need to have this mindset of taking care of your money and not burning through it. What happens to companies that receive investment? We are talking about millions, 1 million, 2, 3, 4, 10, 20, 30 million. They're unconsciously forced to burn money, yeah? You have to grow, you have to grow. Imagine you have abundance, and when you have a lot of money, you have to spend because the investor insists you must grow. It doesn't happen in most cases, but unconsciously you have to do something with that money. And if you lack traction and with a lot of money, then obviously you'll just burn it. In my experience, friends, colleagues, and contacts who have taken on investors, believe me, they've made hires just for the sake of it and burned a tremendous amount of money to grow, to scale their business. But with the bootstrapping methodology, you'll have to watch your money because, if you spend it, next month you won't have anything to pay salaries or expenses. And this is what I like the most, and it's what we put into practice at Watikit. When I first started, I thought, if investors aren't willing to give me their money, then who will ever trust me? And that's precisely where I decided to focus on my clients, because they are going to be your only true investors when you're completely self-funded. When I focused on them, I became obsessed with giving them the best attention, the best product, everything excellent, so they would trust me and give me their money, allowing me to survive. Therefore, your best investors will be your own clients. Now, let's go over the steps I followed at Watikit. The first thing I did was create the financial plan, and that's what you need to do too, because let's consider a worst case scenario. You have a child, you left everything behind, started this project, it's running, you have a couple of clients, but God forbid your child gets sick and you're barely making ends meet, having to choose between your project or your child. Clearly, any human being will choose their child. What are you going to do? Because you don't have any money, you'll abandon the project with a couple of clients and look for another job to support your family. We don't want that to happen. So, before starting, you need to have a minimum financial plan for the next 6 months. You have to make all possible calculations. Usually founders like us, when we launch, we tend to overlook this part. We say, okay, I don't care, I'll just do it once I have the money. But when you're a bootstrapper, this absolutely has to be the very first thing you do. Because for me, this allowed me not to be stressed, not to feel that pressure that at the end of the month I have to pay for my apartment, everything. How are you going to do it then? So, you need to have a plan. In my case, it's been my savings, which allowed me to stay focused day and night, 100% on Watikit for the first few months. Because that didn't allow me, when sales were down or there weren't many sales, to say, you know what, I'm going to work part-time for some company. That's what allowed me to stay focused on the project. Clearly, once you have, and this is obvious, you need to define the business idea, who to sell to, what to do, what tech you'll use, and so on. Then there's the validation that I'll build an MVP as fast as possible and validate it. Once you have a validated product, pause because it's not worth spending. Pause, and this is important when you're using this method. Pause if you haven't validated your ideal client yet. Pause, it's not worth spending money and effort on something you don't even know what will happen. Pause. So once you have the product validated, pause, you move on to the next step, which is marketing and sales. And here you have to aim for creativity and all that is organic, because I remember that when we were already getting our first 100 clients within Watikit, we were competing directly with HubSpot in a category of their businesses, which was customer service or chats. So obviously, they had a budget of millions and we had a budget of not even thousands. It was more like 500, 600, at most $1,000. It's truly difficult to compete with companies that have a lot of money. What's your tool here? It's 100% creativity. In our case, it's been content SEO tools, all focused on creativity and innovation, because with money, we knew we'd lose. And obviously, even if we had it, we weren't going to waste it, because you know the big fish will always eat you. You always have to reach your break-even point, because it's no use losing money every month and spending from your savings. What you need to do is focus on ensuring that all your business expenses and your personal expenses are covered by that project. And you need to set a goal. How much time will it take? Because for example, say 6 months, a year, because you cannot spend 2, 3, 4 years working on your break-even point. When you are self-funded, the urgency is to reach your break-even point, because otherwise you will not be able to survive the coming months. So it's important to already reach this point of equilibrium. Now, once we have reached the break-even point, we move on to the traction phase. Traction means that your company is finally profitable. Profitable in the sense that it's already covering payroll and now we are growing. It's interesting that at Waticket, and this happens rarely, in fact, it's quite rare, out of 100 self-funded tech startups or companies, they'll tell you they became profitable in a year, or in the second, third, fourth, or even 10 years. But Waticket is special. It's the only tech company I know that started being profitable in its very first months. By the 5th month, we were already paying our own salaries. All the founders already had a salary, and our team too, meaning it wasn't coming from our pockets anymore, but the company itself was paying us. So here we saw we had traction and we kept growing. At this point, reinvestment comes into play. So what exactly were we doing here? Money would come in and we'd put it into what was working well. That was technology, customer acquisition, technology, customer acquisition. Everything we were earning, we reinvested into all those initial steps, which were product and marketing. And that is how it works. It's not like, okay, I've got traction and then I just spend it. No, you always need to be thinking about reinvesting in the project. Only in this way will your technology company be scalable. So I hope that this video has been helpful to you. However, this is a very broad topic that I am discussing. It's just the tip of the iceberg. So if you have any doubts or questions, leave them here in the comments and we can chat, we can interact to see how we can help each other grow without the need to have investors. So I'll see you in the comments.